Hi guys, this is Courtney from Will's Bloom, and today I'm going to be talking about the nodal shift, which is happening on July 17th. So, if you guys know about the North and South node in astrology, it is an evolutionary thing that we look at a lot. It's a calculated point in the sky, and it has a lot to do with, like I said, evolution, but also karma and destiny and fate and how things are meant to line up. And that's why the nodes are right next to the new and full moons during eclipses. And that's what makes them eclipses. It's the fact that there's these extra potent energies. And the nodes really have this beautiful mixture of the sun and the moon energy already within it because of the way that it's calculated. And so when you have that, of course, during an eclipse and next to the moon or the sun, it brings out an extra emphasis on that. And so what we can expect during a nodal shift is basically our societal attention shifting into another chapter. And this happens every 18 months. So every year and a half, we are going through a new chapter, a new thing to focus on. And for our previous chapter, we've been focusing on the Taurus and Scorpio axis because wherever the north node is, the south node is going to be opposite it. So they're always going to be in pairs of signs, or the signs that are opposite each other. And so Taurus and Scorpio opposite each other. We just had the north node in Taurus and the south node in Scorpio, and we could really see how there was an elevation or an increase associated with the north node sign and difficulties or decreases with the south node sign. And that's what we can expect for this upcoming cycle, or always, because that is what the nodes tend to do. So in this past cycle with Taurus with the north node in the sign of Taurus, basically everything associated with Taurus energy, which is land and agriculture and homes, even homesteading, slow living, gardening, sustainability, all of those kinds of things became really popular. They kind of picked up speed and became at the forefront of our consciousness. And we also saw that prices of those things would increase, lumber would increase, homes would increase, because the north node being in that sign is going to not only stabilize it, but make it skyrocket. So, there wasn't going to be a huge drop in land prices, for example, when the north node is in Taurus. And that can also be helpful if you ever plan on doing real estate and investing. You can look at these things astrologically. But the south node in Scorpio, the Scorpio is associated with things that we are kind of purging, that we are hiding as a society, things that are darker in nature. They have to do with things that are also underneath the surface, like quite literally. So like gases and things like that. So when the south node is in a sign, it can kind of corrupt those things, and it can also bring the bad parts of that sign to light. So it can take what's good about it and distort it, or it can already show what's been going on, especially with Scorpio. It can show what's kind of been going on behind the scenes for many years and bring some of these kind of atrocities to light, some of this darkness to light. And I really feel like a lot of that came into play with our kind of fluctuation of gas prices. We could definitely see that there, as well as investments, stocks. Those things were kind of up and down. Cryptocurrency, which are all very much, cryptocurrency really has an Aquarius energy to it, but it's a little bit of both with Scorpio and Taurus. I don't think it would fall on one in particular, but we can see kind of like the rise and the fall of that happen with the Scorpio South Node in particular, because the governmental control and how that there are going to be regulations and how that's not necessarily something that would benefit big banks and things of that nature, that all that kind of Scorpio power dynamics is part of what I think kind of squashed that endeavor. Whether that's permanent or not is left to be, still known. But I think that that's part of that Scorpio power dynamics at play, or kind of like that becoming more visible to society, how we try to take some sense of power back for ourselves, and that's challenged, that's kind of questioned. On a more personal level, Scorpio can have a lot to do with our own kind of crisis and emotional fluctuations and obsessions. And I think that that's something that we really saw highlighted over this last year and a half, with part of this time being overlapped with the lockdown and the aftermath of COVID and all of those elements. I think that it really brought out kind of like the emotional and psychological issues of the country to the forefront. How we were operating before was not sustainable, and it really got exacerbated with COVID. We really got to see our disconnect and the more kind of a loneliness epidemic that was actually going on behind the scenes. We really became very acutely aware of that. What I also think it provided us is more connection with what truly matters to us, which is a really Taurus Venusian topic where the North Node is. So instead of kind of being stuck in our darkness, which is a Scorpio energy, we were meant to be coming into a greater perspective of the simplicity of life, what truly matters to us in life. And that's why, gardening and coming back to the earth was such an important part of what we were doing. And our ways of kind of obsessing about things or being really driven towards things, which can be very scorpionic in nature. We can be very, very focused. That focused was kind of dimmed and was taken and put into a different context. And so we had a lot of gifts, I feel like, from every nodal change. We have a lot of gifts as a society where we're given these larger experiences that affect us as a collective, and they start to shift where we focus our energy. And now from July 17th to January 11th of 2025, we're going to have that shift come into the sign of Aries and Libra. So wherever the North Node is, it was going to kind of enhance this particular energy, and where the South Node is, it will distort, lessen, or reveal things that are negative about qualities associated with that sign. And so the North Node coming into the sign of Aries is really going to put a lot of emphasis on individuality and our creation of our own identity. And I think we can already really start to see this when we're talking about, gender, for example. I think that's one of the things that is coming up at the forefront of our media right now is, what is a woman, what is a man, what is non-binary, or all the things in between. How can we actually create our own identity and not necessarily have to fall into particular societal norms, or do things that are not, especially as Pluto's moving into Aquarius. I will also add that. But Libra, let me kind of talk about that first, and then maybe Aries will make more sense. Libra is a lot around balancing things out, and it has to do with relationships and creating harmony. And so when the South Node is in this sign, we can see how there have been ways that we have maybe wanted to create harmony so much that we have actually put our own needs aside, that we have maybe not spoken up when we needed to speak up and say something for ourselves, or we were afraid to go off and do something on our own because of the way that society is structured to promote, codependency in relationships. Not codependency, but relationships, and not just society. I mean, human nature is structured that way. But, I think the U.S. in particular is hyper independent. So I'm really curious to see how the North Node in Aries is going to be for an already hyper independent country. But for those that are more kind of collectivist nations, they might see that they're moving a little bit away from that into a more Aries kind of energy at the moment. Pluto is in Aquarius, which can kind of change that up, or it will be in 2024, which is overlapping with this time period of the nodes being in this axis. So I think that that's also another factor at play here. But the difference between like partnerships and individuation is just super, super, super strong. And I do kind of predict that more breakups will happen. People, I think, will move a little bit more towards entrepreneurship as well. I think we already got to start to see a little bit more of that. You know, when Jupiter was in the sign of Aries, I think that that really promoted a lot of people kind of doing things on their own and taking risks that felt like they would benefit from or that they had always wanted. And that also reaffirms who you believe you are and who your identity actually is. So I think that there's going to be an emphasis a lot more on what do I want? Who am I? Where do I want to go when it's out of the context of relationships? And I think the South Node in Libra can really show us where relationships have made us kind of look the other way or distort our self-image or turn our backs on ourselves when we needed to be there for ourselves or pursue something on our own, like I was mentioning. But because the South Node tends to distort a sign, I really feel like when it comes into Libra, it can show a lot of toxicity within relationships and really emphasize codependency and oftentimes an inability to move forward because of indecisiveness, because of the way that we don't want to affect other people. So this could look like, you know, not wanting to say something wrong, like socially. And so you just kind of don't say anything or you stumble over your words. And it's because there's a desire to really not, you know, ruffle anyone's feathers. You want everyone to feel good. You want everyone to feel at home. And so when you're in that South Node energy of the sign, it becomes actually debilitating. It starts to take on a more negative effect. And it really starts to become clear how too much of that sign has distorted reality and has made people maybe, you know, so concerned with others that they are forgetting their own personal truth. And with the North Node in Aries, as a collective, we are individually meant to be discovering our personal truth, being honest with ourselves and with others, and finding a way that we can express ourselves that maybe at times a little bit more blunt, a little bit more direct, a little bit more frank and honest. And that might be uncomfortable. Aries is ruled by Mars. It is a planet of war, a planet of conflict, a planet of aggression, of assertiveness. And so a lot of our energy is meant to start moving into that space where we're willing to fight for what we believe is right, where we are willing to fight for ourselves, where we won't take no for an answer, where we are not, you know, pushing ourselves off to the side when something is important or overlooking something. And we're really stepping up to meet the challenges that life presents us. So Aries, again, is that warrior energy and is very willing to tackle these hard and difficult things coming our way. Whereas Libra energy has a little bit more of a passivity to it. It's ruled by Venus, a feminine planet, where Mars is a masculine planet. It will take charge. It will take initiative. So if there have been ways in which we have been, you know, passive as a society, as a nation, we're really going to start to feel that. We're going to feel that we have taken the reins off of certain things in our life and let other people take control. And we're going to really start to see how that's an issue. And so, again, furthering our independence and autonomy is highlighted here. And I do think that's actually a continuation from the North Node in Taurus. Something that Taurus and Aries both share is that there actually is an independent and autonomous kind of nature to both of these signs. And so I think that we're really being encouraged to discover more of ourselves and rely more on ourselves in order to be more authentic, in order to know what identity we're trying to cultivate for ourselves in our future, instead of maybe following kind of relationship patterns or doing what's easy, doing what's going with the flow that doesn't kind of resist norms or standards that are within society or within relationships and our personal lives. Libra also has a lot to do with fairness and equality. So we can really start to see how fairness and equality can actually have a darker side to it when it's overdone, when it's becoming toxic. And this, I mean, I think that we can see this very clearly, and this is my personal opinion, so shoot me if you want to. I mean, not literally, please, but you know, I don't think it's right that we're having, you know, trans women, so someone who was born a biological man, who transitioned to a womanhood probably after puberty. I would say like that cutoff there, when you transition after puberty, you're a different, you have different physical attributes at that point. Like you've already gone through puberty. You have certain, I would say like benefits that women don't have in terms of strength and physical structure. And so when a trans woman enters into a women's like Olympic league or to women's sport league, it really becomes unfair for the women who worked so hard to get there and have a physical disadvantage compared to an individual like that. And I think that is an example of when equality becomes actually so distorted. Oh, we want it to be fair. We want it to be super fair for everybody. But what is fair? What is fairness? And we're going to look at this in many different contexts. What is balanced? What is just? And the whole idea of what is balanced and just, or, what laws should be passed or what laws shouldn't be passed. A lot of these things are really going to start pushing into the forefront. And I think socially, we're going to be asking ourselves lots of questions around the nuance of that, because again, we can't just blindly accept, fair is fair and this is that. It's like everyone has their own unique idea of what fairness is. And so it's going to be something that I think could bring up argumentation amongst people. What kind of litigation are we going to experience as a country? And I think with the North Node being in Aries, argumentation is enhanced, because wherever the North Node is, there's more energy there. So we're much more conflict oriented, and when we're having distortions of what's fair, what's not fair, and that's really up for debate, this North Node in Aries can come in and add lots of fire, and it could just turn into a frenzy in some ways. So I think that's something that we should be mindful of, are a lot of diplomatic relationships, because again, Libra is about coming together. It's about contracts. It's about peace. And when the South Node is in the sign, we can really start to see how maybe being passive or not doing something or trying to keep the peace as countries can actually be a negative thing. Or, with the North Node in Aries, we can see how we maybe move more towards conflict as countries, and that natural peace that was there starts to kind of break down, which does make war more possible or more likely. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. I'm not predicting that necessarily, but that this type of energy is just much more exacerbated. People are going to be much more impatient. They're going to be much more hot-headed and opinionated. And I think in some ways that's a good thing. But we always need a little bit of a balance here with the Libra and the Aries energy. And so we're meant to be on a higher level, kind of figuring out what this Aries, what the healthy expression of the Aries energy is, and what it's meant to be teaching us, and what the unhealthy expression of the Libra energy is, and what that's meant to be kind of warning us about. And so that's the goal of this, not to have one over the other, but to have the healthiest expression of both. And so something else to keep in mind with Libra energy is that there is a really strong emphasis on homeostasis, like keeping things kind of, not static, but keeping things kosher, keeping things safe, keeping things as they are. And this is actually something that affects us physically, like it's representing things in our body that keep homeostasis, like our endocrine system, for example. And so as a society, or even on a physical level, we can notice that those things actually become perturbed, and that there is not the same kind of homeostasis or bench line kind of calm energy. Maybe there's going to be just higher fluctuations of energy. Mars and Aries energy can bring a lot of fire, a lot of animosity, a lot of passion. And so it's not going to be this kind of like chill energy. It's much more up and down. It's much more kind of grabby in its own nature. It's much more desire oriented. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to go get. There's a lot of potential for selfishness and that would be unhealthy, but the, enlightened selfishness would be the healthy expression of this. So for people in society who have never had their voices really heard, or who felt like they didn't have a place or didn't stand up for themselves, it's their time to be selfish. It's their time to take center stage and have more of an impact and be more of a leader. And I think that that's how this can be expressed in a very healthy way. So things that are also focused on willpower and doing things on your own accord is going to be also really emphasized. And I think that this is helpful because I've noticed as a society, we've kind of gotten stuck in a little bit of a victim mindset where we can focus a little bit too much on all of the reasons why we are feeling stuck, or why we are feeling disempowered, or why we're in a situation, and a lot of external blaming. And not to say that that doesn't exist, but that the overemphasis and focus on that has actually taken away our own agency to do something about it. And so I think the North Node in Aries is actually going to empower us as individuals and a society to be able to make changes, realizing that, oh, okay, this is what's in my control. My mindset, how I react to things, what I go out and do, even as a result of some things, like how I'm responding, that's within my own control. My own willpower is under my control. And so how I wield that is going to become really emphasized. So I could see people like David Goggins growing in popularity, kind of controlling our own mind, or having a lot of resilience or tenacity, or kind of courage to face parts of our life or society or things within our own nature, and kind of wield them and control them. That would be the positive side of the North Node in Aries. The negative side would be to allow our animalistic side to control us, to kind of lose our own willpower, to lose our way a little bit, and be more impulsive or irrational in what we're going after. Or I want this now. So there are ways that this can unfold in both the positive and negative sense. And I'm really hoping that, as a society, we move towards the positive essences of all these things. Something else that I think is important to mention is that Libra has a lot to do with beauty. And so I think that our kind of beauty standards, the way that we invest into the beauty industry, the pressure that we put on everyone, but especially women and young women, to look a certain way or to meet certain standards, I think those things can become really, really, really high key and, again, distorted. We can put so much pressure, can become so blown up that we start to see the cracks in it. We start to see where there are so many flaws. Not that there aren't obvious flaws now to the beauty industry, but I think we'll really, really start to see, all these celebrities coming out with beauty lines. Like, we're all just kind of going for it now. But when the South Node moves into Libra, I think people might start questioning that. They might start questioning, the efficacy of some things, or whether it's ethical, or whether it's, worth it, and what they're supporting. And I think, the fashion industry and where people's money is going, and how it's affecting, more than just us, but affecting us as a society. Those are topics that I think are going to become really important. And again, taking the power in our own hands with the Aries North Node, and realizing that as consumers, we have a lot of power with our financial decisions, I think is really going to be a beautiful way that we can start shifting that story and having higher expectations with what we're buying, higher standards with the companies that we work with, and hopefully moving away from things like Shein, where there are kind of toxic practices and fast fashion. Although I will say Aries has a very fast energy to it. So hopefully that doesn't kind of ignite more fast fashion, because Libra is fashion and Aries is fast. So I'm curious to see how fast fashion in particular plays out with this. But I'm hoping that that comes under fire a little bit, and we can kind of think about our choices and who we want to be. It's not so much the sustainability factor, because the North Node in Taurus was more about that. Now, not saying that we're just dumping that. Hopefully we leave some of that integrated into our society. But now it's more so like, who do I want to be? Do I want to represent that? Like, is that who I am as a person? Am I someone who buys fast fashion? Am I someone who believes that that's a good thing? And if it's not, we're fighting against it. We're having a cause. And I think that that's where this North Node in Aries can really come in and help us. The last time that we experienced a similar energy to this was back in 2014 when the nodes were in these same signs but reversed. So at this period of time, the North Node was in Libra, the South Node was in Aries. So if you want to kind of look back at that period of your life, you might be able to detect how the same type of energy came up but in reverse ways, or maybe you saw certain imbalances in your life, and now we can almost complement that with this year, and can kind of complete the circle where we were working on our Libra energy. Now we're working on our Aries energy. So let's go ahead and look into what this will be like for all of the rising signs. So you can also watch this for your sun sign. That's definitely valid. So go ahead and stay tuned for that. And don't forget that if you like this video, to give me a thumbs up and comment down below, subscribe and share with your friends, because I definitely see that more people are viewing it than commenting. So I'd love to, hear how this resonates with you or what you think about this. And definitely there's so much more to say. I'm really just scratching the surface. So if you want to add your own personal kind of theories of what's going to happen over this next year and a half, I would really love to hear about it. And let's get into the rising signs. All right. So first we have Aries rising and sun. So for my Aries rising, this is really a time for you guys to be stepping up into a leader, into more of your own essence. You are already somebody who has the ability to take initiative and to lead, like I was saying. And so now that the North Node is in your sign, it's your time to step into that role in society. And this might mean that you are the one leading people who are scared, or you are stepping up in your career in a bigger way, taking up the spotlight, going after things that you really desire. And I think that we can all learn from you in the way that you are courageous and unafraid to take initiative for what you really want. And that level of passion and tenacity is really encouraged in your life right now, and is what is going to help you achieve some level of success. With the North Node is in your sign or passing over your sun, you are much more likely to have some kind of success in life, or to feel like things are moving on and up for you, or chapters are evolving for you in a more positive way. So your individuality, your own desires, pursuing the career that you want, taking chances on yourself, those are all really encouraged with the North Node in your sign. And I can really see that with this elk card as well, which I pulled for you. This is your animal leading you this year. And it says, nobility. Celebrate your accomplishments with humility. You are crowned with success. Powerful forces guide you. You are able to conquer challenges. So I definitely feel like you guys are going to be able to overcome anything in your path this year and a half in particular. I think you're going to feel like the universe is on your side, because it is. I also pulled the cleansing card, and I think this has to do with the South Node being in Libra. The cleansing card has Gemini on it. So there are ways in which you might have to end some relationships over this next year and a half. And I also pulled this denial card. So I think that if there have been anything that you've been kind of sweeping under the rug within relationships, that is going to become really evident and no longer something that you can deny. And so there is a cleansing or a purging of old patterns that have maybe helped keep you small or limited in some way. If you felt responsible for someone's feelings, or if you haven't tried something or done something because of a relationship, I really feel like those relationships are going to fall away or alter in a really big way in order to make room for your larger than life presence this next year. I also pulled this card that has to deal with avoiding some type of pain, like running or trying to achieve something, not necessarily for the achievement itself, but because of the fear of what it would be like if you didn't have that, or what would happen if you didn't do that thing. So for example, the example in the card deck was, a team that really wants to win because they're scared of losing, rather than being super focused on what you're trying to win. And so I think that there is an important message for you guys here, where everything that you focus on at this point in time will really grow. The North Node in your sign is really going to grow your desires and grow your intentions and your actions, and help connect the dots between, that first step and the end goal. It's going to make a bridge for you a lot easier. But if you're super focused on avoiding something, or again, winning so that you don't lose, and actually having that in your mind as the end goal, that might affect how successful you move through this time. And it might affect as well kind of how your relationships unfold. If you need to like let go of some relationships, but you don't because of the certain fears and being driven by certain fears, I think that that can really have a negative effect on you. So I think one of the cards coming in for advice is to, first of all, with the Elk card, talking about success and humility, I think one of the pieces of advice is to have humility, despite the fact that, you know, you're going to have lots of amazing things come in for you and you might feel on top of the world. Just remember everybody else's perspective. Remember to have humility as well. And then the other thing is to make sure that you're not running from something on your path to wherever you're going, that you're not trying to avoid something, and that you're focused on what it is that you want to desire and create, as that will be amplified. So that is what I'm saying for you, Aries. I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoy this. If it does, please don't forget to comment down below, give me a thumbs up, a subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus Rising and Sun. So for you guys, this North Node in Aries is going to be in your 12th house, and the South Node in Libra will be in your 6th house. And it's funny because I pulled this Polar Bear Mystic card, which I feel like goes super, super well with having the North Node move through your 12th house. This card says, know that challenges make you stronger. Have faith when you face adversity. Take time to rest, dream, and renew your strength. Embrace your psychic abilities. You carry the shaman within. Wow, this is so you guys. The 12th house is very mystical, very shamanistic, very dream and rest and actually isolation oriented. So when the North Node moves through this area of your life, you are going to be able to develop more of your psychic gifts, and it is encouraged to spend more time alone in order to reflect and integrate a lot of things in your life. So if you have been kind of really busy, if you've been really external with the nodes, you know, moving through your first house this past year, you've been really kind of putting yourself out there, growing a lot as a person. Now it's time to take a little bit of a step inside. I was going to take a step back. It's not necessarily back. I mean, it could be, but it's going to go deeper inside in order to integrate a lot of the lessons that you've learned, the things that you've learned about yourself over this past year and a half. And now it's going to take those really practical things that you've gained in life and apply them to a larger perspective, apply them to a more spiritual stance in life. And that's part of where kind of connecting with the spirit realm and your psychic gifts are really encouraged. One of the things that I also feel like is a journey for you this year, when I pulled this sigil, number 78, this card talks about self-sabotage in the name of self-preservation. And as a Taurus rising, one of your number one kind of emphasis in your psyche is going to be around self-preservation, because Taurus is linked with survival as a Taurus sun or rising. And this card is specifically talking about self-sabotage, which is a 12th house topic where the North Node will be. Self-sabotage is something that undoes our being. It's things that kind of slowly chip away at our well-being, our psyche, our progress in life. And sometimes it's something that comes, again, from a perspective of trying to save ourselves. So if I don't take this step, if I procrastinate, you know, I'm going to be safe because I won't have to move into the new. I will preserve what is right now and I'll be okay. And so if there are ways in which you haven't opened up parts of yourself or taken risks on parts of your own kind of life, I think that you'll start to be faced with that now. You'll start to become much more aware of how you haven't taken action, or you have been too slow, or you've been too cautious, or you've done things that ultimately have kept you stuck in old cycles, old patterns, because of this idea that it was helping you, when in reality it was hurting you. And I think you're going to become just very lucid to the dream realm, to the subconscious realm, to the things that influence you without your awareness, that try to keep you safe. And I just saw 333, so maybe there's something related to that, related to your mind, to communication, to siblings, that is also pertinent to what I'm discussing now. with the South Node in your sixth house, one of the things that I would be more mindful of are health things in particular. This axis has a lot to do with physical and mental health. And so I always kind of tell people to just be more mindful of your physical and mental health, because you could just be a little bit more prone to burnout. You might find that you kind of have a lot to do and you can get overwhelmed. You might find that you have like a loss or change of a job or responsibility in your life, something that you've been doing for a while in your routine that you just suddenly don't have to do, or that it changes up in a way. And then, or maybe something with your health can have some kind of change. I'm not trying to say bad things are going to happen. I'm just saying that there are potential changes on the horizon in your routines and your health and in your work and your responsibilities. And so to be able to be adaptable during this period of time is really going to help. Also, relationships within the workplace might feel like they are a little bit more strained than usual, just because the South Node can kind of bring that about. But the good news is that sometimes the South Node can bring about blessings that we've accumulated, especially with sixth house, where we've really been of service. We've really had to work super, super hard. You might get one of two things. You might feel like you have to continue that grind, like you have to really work a lot, and you don't necessarily get all of the glamour and the glitz as a result of that. Or the opposite, you might notice that past blessings actually come back to you because of all the efforts you've put into prior, with all that previous work. And so I can really see that with this fertility card coming in here. And this says that you will reap what you have sown. There's something very karmic about the nodes as well as the 12th and 6th house axis. The wisdom of nature is at the forefront. Answers, discoveries, and inspiration will be found there for you. Plan well, stick with things, and look after those around you. Challenges may be failure to connect with others and inauthenticity. So I really feel like the fertility is saying that you actually have the potential to reap what you've sown in your career or your job, and with past efforts in regards to your health and routine. So keep up the good work with that. Be adaptable, be willing to change, and take care of yourself. So that's what I'm seeing, Taurus Rising. If that resonates, please don't forget to comment down below. I love reading all of your comments. Please also like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini Rising and Sun. So for you guys, the North Node is going to be in Aries in your 11th house, and the South Node is in Libra in your 5th house. So I'm getting kind of messages that are all over the place, but I'm definitely excited for you guys because having the North Node in the 11th house, which is a community-oriented house and has a lot to do with the way that we can actually evolve and get better over time. The 5th and 11th houses both have a lot of kind of growth orientation to them. So having the North Node pass through one of these is beautiful because it's going to align you with the more potential for growth. This especially has to deal with relationships in your life. So you might notice that you make more friends, that you have a greater sense of purpose or community that you are surrounded by. You might feel like you're more able to meet people of like-minded interests, that you are able to actually get benefactors or people that can help you from a higher kind of place in society. And there's just more encouragement towards your general goals at this period of time. So the North Node here is very exciting for you to embrace some of your authenticity and be accepted for it in a beautiful way. And maybe that's something that you haven't felt in the past. Maybe you felt like you were being your weird self and you weren't accepted. And this is a year where that might change for you. And I think that makes a lot of sense with this dragon card, which says supernatural. This is your animal guiding you this year. And it says, you are the ancient wise sage. You can shapeshift at will. Mastery is your destiny. Rise with dignity. So what's really standing out to me is the fact that this is not a real animal. It's a dragon. So there's something quite supernatural that's coming to you this year. And it literally says supernatural. So I feel like you guys are going to be maybe having certain experiences this year that feel really outside of the norm, that are things that you have never experienced before. And that's a very 11th house kind of energy. It's progressive, it's unique, it's taking a step onto a piece of land, especially in the sign of Aries, that has never been touched by any human life, which sounds impossible, but the supernatural card really has that energy to it. You're breaking ground for yourself in your own life, and I think going to have really unique experiences that you haven't had before. And it says that you are the ancient wise sage. So to me, that's really saying and describing that you're not just kind of entering into new territory blind, but you're taking your past wisdom with you. And I think that's super important because sometimes Aries energy can be very impulsive and not necessarily wise. But I think that you guys, you've been doing a lot of, self-work, and you've been having Pluto in your 8th house, and it's now kind of shifting finally in 2024 into Aquarius. You've done a lot of the work to learn things about yourself, and I think you're going to bring that wisdom with you and that ability to also adapt to these new life circumstances that you've never encountered before. So I'm very excited about that. And I can also see with stimulation that maybe some things in your romantic life might be undergoing some kind of change, because the South Node is in your 5th house of, romance, of sexuality, of passions, of interests, joys. So with the South Node here, you might be kind of having some alterations to what used to stimulate you, what used to make you excited. So this could look very literal, like your sex life is changing in some way. This could look like you, suddenly wanting to, change your relationship with children, or change your job, or something that used to bring you like lots of joy. You might have some kind of change in that area of your life where it's maybe de-emphasized, or you're just kind of putting your focus elsewhere. Maybe you're thinking more long term, and it's not so much about what do I want to do today, and you're kind of planning for your future. And that stimulation card might say that you could overindulge. That's also possible here with the South Node bringing up kind of toxic traits. We might become a little bit too impulsive with what we'd want and indulge too much. So that's also something to be really mindful of. But with this gratitude card, I really feel like you guys are going to be reaping rewards from your past actions, or feeling like new land is like being struck for the first time in your life. And I think that you're going to be grateful for those experiences. You're going to be grateful for these kind of full circle moments. I pulled 2 other cards for you around what you might not see or need to work on this year. One of them is bypassing, and this has to do with using your beliefs in order to kind of feel like you're resolving something. So I believe that this is this way, and so it's not an issue, but actually it is an issue, and it's almost like you're setting up your mind in order to like be appeased by what is in front of you, when in reality you might need to question how you view things. And that's very much, again, what will lead you into this new land and new territory, is challenging your previous beliefs about things in order to actually get what you want. Because I think some of you guys might have had beliefs that prevented you from getting what you wanted, from feeling fulfilled, from reaching for things in life, because maybe you had beliefs that you didn't want those things, or beliefs that it wasn't possible. Or this could be, beliefs that are having blindfolds for issues in your life. And that is what's preventing you from what you want. So that's something that you're going to address this year. This other card that I pulled has to do with your emotional compass, 46. This has a lot to do with your emotions dictating your reality. So not only are your beliefs, but also your emotions are telling you what to think about things, and they're leading you astray at certain moments of time. So this year might be a lot about finding truth for yourself and discovering how you could have lied to yourself or bypass certain things based off of the way that you viewed them. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Gemini. If that resonates, please don't forget to comment down below, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer Rising and Sun. So for you guys, this North Node in Aries will be in your 10th house, and the South Node in Libra will be in your 4th. So anytime we have an angular house like this activated through the nodes, we are definitely having a heightened emphasis of this energy in our life, because the angular houses are more potent, are more visible, are more noticeable. And with the North Node in particular being in your 10th, I think many of you guys are going to have some career enhancements. You might reach some level of success that you haven't reached before. You might have some incredible realizations and pivots about where you really desire to go in life. And with the success card, I definitely feel like the path that unfolds for you next is one that is actually more emotionally fulfilling, that is more purposeful for you. I think that you guys are also going to have a lot of energy and motivation with this being a North Node in Aries to go out and achieve what you want. So this looks like you finally taking like the bull by the horns and realizing that you have complete control over your career success and making something happen as a result of that realization. And your animal guiding you throughout this year and a half is a dragonfly, and it says magic. I embrace my transformation. I courageously let go of the past. The magic of nature is in me. I am brilliant and blessed. So I really feel like this has a lot to do with you guys evolving a lot as a soul. And with the South Node being in the fourth house, there is a need to detach from our previous conditioning in order to realize this state of evolution. The 10th house is about worldly achievement and success and goals, but it also has a lot to do with how we move through life in order to come into that next stage of evolution. So having a new kind of challenge presented, having a new mountain to climb so that we can realize more about ourselves, which is a very Aries thing. Who am I now that I've climbed this mountain? How have I changed? What have I realized about myself? And in order to meet those challenges, climb those mountains, we have to let go of the ground we previously stood on. We have to let go of the past. We have to let go of the person we thought that we were to become the person that we are meant to be. And this dragonfly is showing this magical transformation of identity and having to kind of leave the cocoon, leave the safety of the past, the safety of familiarity, the safety of what was known, and embrace what is to come. And so many of you guys might notice that you move, or that you move out of, you know, an area where you knew family, or that family relationships undergo some transformation where you might feel maybe a little bit more disconnected. And that's kind of trying to push you out of the nest into this bigger horizon. But I will say also, the South Node can overindulge in that particular house. So you might find that you want to be at home a lot, that you are going through bigger transformations, and that your nesting cocoon feels very important to you, that your family feels very maybe even codependent. So just kind of be aware of how you're putting your energy, and that you're balancing your external life with your internal, behind the scenes kind of life. I pulled a card that has to do with what we are not seeing for ourselves. And one of the cards that I pulled for you, or the card that I pulled for you, was a Mask of Altruism, 64, which has a lot to do with us feeling like we're doing something for the greater good when there are actually inherent selfish reasons behind why we're doing them. And I think it's important to recognize all of the reasons why we do something, not because it's, you know, we need to disown that and like not do something because there's selfish reasons intertwined there. It's human nature. It's part of who we are. We have selfish tendencies. And with the North Node in Aries, we're meant to see that, own it, and recognize it, especially when it comes to how you're trying to impact the world, or, you know, make an impact, make some kind of like wave. You know, let's say you want to be a singer. There are probably selfish reasons. Maybe you want attention, maybe you want validation, maybe you want money, you know, whatever that is. And I think part of, you know, actually getting what you want is owning all of the reasons why you want it and being unashamed for that. And so I think part of this process for you is really coming to terms with all aspects of the psyche and what it is that you really, really want, and being okay with every reason, even if it's not completely altruistic. So that is what I'm saying for you, Cancer. If you enjoyed this, if it resonates, please comment down below. I love reading your comments. Please also subscribe, like, share with your friends so that more people can see my work. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo Rising and Sun. So for you guys, this North Node in Aries is going to be in your 9th house, and the South Node in Libra is in your 3rd. So you guys are really moving into a time of empowerment. With the North Node being in Aries, we are already stepping into a more courageous, brave version of ourselves, or we're being encouraged to anyway. And with this being in your 9th house of adventure and of reaching beyond our limitations, of seeing ourselves expand and grow, and maybe like quite literally travel somewhere new, and, you know, kind of grow in terms of our map or geography. Or grow our knowledge or our wisdom by learning through experiences. That is what is highly encouraged during this period of time. So if there is anything in your life that you have been trepidatious about, or that you've kind of held yourself back from taking a risk on, taking a chance on for yourself, it's time to put that aside and allow yourself to up level. Have, again, the courage to take on something new, to learn something new about yourself, and to grow in ways that you haven't allowed yourself to before. With the South Node in your third house, there can be a little bit of getting lost in the energy of busyness that can prevent your soul from evolving and growing like it wants to on the bigger level. Maybe you have so many to-dos or so many kind of errands to run or calls and texts to answer that you don't actually connect with your greater purpose and your greater why, and you lose yourself in the mundane world. And so I think part of what the South Node here is going to exacerbate for you is that sense of busyness and the need to kind of operate with our daily busy lives and even our own mind, getting lost in busy thoughts, getting distracted, communicating too much with ourselves, with others, that we're so kind of present with what's right in front of us, which is great, but we're also in some ways not actually present with like the deeper stuff that's right in front of us. I hope that's making sense. And if that's the case, this is really about creating almost like a healthier relationship with time, with your own thoughts, with your own mental health, and taking ownership over your time, your thoughts, and your day-to-day routines as well. Like maybe not routine, but your day-to-day, like how things unfold in your day-to-day life in regards to busyness. And I saw that especially with this card, which has to do with blame. And this is what we don't see. And I think something that you're going to face this next year and a half is where you have put blame outside of yourself for why you don't have time or capacity to do something new or push yourself to a new horizon, or go on that trip that you've always wanted to go on, or learn something new. It's like, oh, I can't do that because I have to, complete this homework, and I have to, do this job, and I have to mow the lawn, and I don't have time. And it's like always putting blame outside of you for why you can't achieve that next level of yourself. And I think that this is really encouraging you to take ownership and to have courage to be able to recognize where you can say no and lean more into what you really want to become as a person and as a soul. And also this has to do a lot with our spiritual practices as well. If you are like out of touch with yourself, this is time to get out of that busy life and rat race and get more in touch with yourself so that you know your why and you know why you're moving towards certain things in life. The owl guiding you this year, the animal guiding you this year is the owl. And it says magic. Choose to know the truth because you can. Open your inner vision. You can see through deception. Let the past go and make room for a better life. Rise up. Magic and wisdom are your birthright. I love this. This is actually my spirit animal, the white owl. And I love that it's talking about truth, because the ninth house isn't just about your why and evolving. It's reconnecting with truth, which is why it's so heavily linked with religion and spirituality, because that's the way that we find the meaning to life and the truth behind life, the why. All those things are very intimately connected. And I think that you guys might, with the South Node in the third house, there's a potential for you guys to be caught in the webs of deception, which is, I think, partially the blaming that's going on. You can blame other people or other things because it's deceiving you that you don't have power in that situation, or you can't see the truth of what's really happening. And so that's the kind of warning that's coming in here. The thing that you're going to work on is your own personal responsibility to spot what is true and what is deceiving you, or where you are putting your responsibility and blame elsewhere. It's also talking about to let go of the past to make room for a better life. As I mentioned, the ninth is really about evolving and reaching, but we can't get too caught up in the mundane or of thoughts about the past or of issues of the past if we want to grow forward. So we're going to have some process of letting that go and achieving our newfound wisdom, because the ninth is really about wisdom gained through that adventure, that experience, that trial and error that we go through. We learn a lot about ourselves, and if you don't take that chance, you won't gain the wisdom. But that's what you can have at the end of this year and a half. So that is what I see for you, Leo Rising. If this resonates, please don't forget to comment down below, give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, subscribe, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo Rising. So for my beautiful Virgos, the North Node in Aries is going to be in your 8th house. Very fun. And the South Node in your 2nd house. So I really feel like you guys are going to be going through a process of empowerment. And there are many times where we might have to face our fears in order to actually become empowered. And a lot of those fears are what cracks our heart open. The things that make us feel very vulnerable to different kinds of emotional experiences, greater intimacy with other people. And we might feel like when we have the North Node in Aries here, like we are finally evolutionarily ready to wear our heart on our sleeves, to talk about certain topics from our past that may have, hindered us in some ways, some traumas. We're finally ready to face those, work on those, courageously look ourselves in the mirror and release that, and become again just more vulnerable and soft in ways that the world or our past or our traumas or our insecurities or our fears had hardened our hearts. And so now with this memory card, it's like really about going down memory lane and plucking out the things that have caused that hardening and calcification, and take another look at them so that we can put them under the fire of the sun, which brings clarity, which brings warmth, joy, and melt that calcified parts of ourselves. And from this, I think we gain a lot of wisdom, because we're not just taking from those experiences everything, the fear, the trauma. We're really pulling out the wisdom and leaving the rest behind and just carrying that forward with us. So we can trust that as we are moving forward and taking risks, emotional risks, and maybe even financial risks, but as we're moving forward, we know that we have our past wisdom to ensure that we make the best decisions for ourselves, that we're not just being vulnerable with whoever, but that we have the wisdom of knowing who to choose, how to open up, what to say, what to do, so that we can really, again, take what we've gained from those experiences and carry them with us. One of the cards around what you are not seeing this year that you haven't seen in the past that you're working on is this number 7. It says meaning. If you've drawn the sigil, you've assigned meaning to a situation or an experience that's part of the situation that is not the actual meaning of the experience. People search for a way of interpretation. People search for a way of interpreting the implication of every experience in their lives. Searching meaning for experiences is a form of consciousness. So basically, what it's saying is that there are things in your life that you've distorted the meaning of them. And this is really coming through the lens of that trauma, through that 8th house. So maybe you've had experiences in the past that have not gone so well. And then somebody does something that somehow triggers that memory, and you interpret what they're saying or doing now through the lens of that trauma or that past because of that correlation in your brain. And what I'm seeing here is that you're needing to work on how you give meaning to things and make it mean something more positive and empowering for you so that you can feel more healed. And I think that this is really a time where your connections and your relationships are going to become stronger over this course of the next year and a half because of the internal work that you are doing and the way that you are reducing the amount of triggers that you might have in your life. With the South Node in the 2nd house, this is a lot around kind of reducing our attachment to self-preservation and maybe even financial gains. So sometimes you can lose money within transit like this, or you could have the opposite happen where you're finally gaining finances because of past efforts, because the South Node is quite karmic in nature. What goes around comes around. And it can also reduce our confidence sometimes, or make us really have to come into question like how we've how we have been confident and what we've done to keep ourselves confident. And maybe some of that was built on a house of straws. You know, for example, maybe you were confident because you looked a certain way, and maybe that changes, and you have to find confidence from a deeper place within. So the second house is really about reducing that attachment to homeostasis, to self-preservation, to vain things, and putting your attachment or putting your empowerment into things that run a lot deeper and that are a lot more true to who you really are. And the animal guiding you through this year and a half is the dog card. And it says, "Friend, today I will love without condition. My energy and enthusiasm are an inspiration. I choose to be happy. I am a protector and friend." And I think that this has a lot to do with the improvement of your relationships, that you're coming away from being triggered and you're choosing to be happy, choosing to work on the things that cause unhappiness, make meaning out of them in a different way to bring about better results in your psyche and in your life. And I think as well to have just better relationships as well, to protect and cherish those relationships just the way that you will protect and cherish yourself. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Virgo Rising. If that resonates or inspires you, please comment down below. I love to read your comments. Please also like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra Rising and Sun. So for you guys, this North Node in Aries is happening in your 7th house, and the South Node will be in your sign or in your 1st house, or if your Sun is in Libra, wherever your Sun is, the South Node will pass over that over this next year and a half. So I really feel like for you guys, you're going to be entering into a period of reconfiguring your identity, and you might have to let some elements of your life go that were actually a part of a past identity, which is very common when the South Node moves through your 1st house. Maybe there are ways in which you like change your appearance, and you maybe let go of an old wardrobe or an old job or something that you connected yourself to, and you become more in a state of kind of not flux, but a little bit of that kind of really putting things up in your mind or on the wall and being like, does this stick? Is this part of my nature? And is this truly me? And if it's not, it's going to go. And I really see that with this lizard card that says regeneration. As a survivor, you are unparalleled. No matter what happens, you can adapt. Embrace your transformation. Put on your new cloak. You are a master of regeneration. So there may be things that you've spent time building up and becoming really solid with that have felt like a support system that are no longer going to be as strong of a support system. And that's not because the universe is trying to scare you, but with this regeneration card, it's a lot about discovering who you are without that thing, without a reliance on something that may become like something that you've over-identified with or overemphasized. Or it could be something in your life that you're just as a soul meant to evolve past and come into a new type of horizon. And if you're still attached to that old thing, then you won't. And I think this year is a lot about facing your fears with this sigil I drew, which is about our blind spot. It's about your fears and how that could be driving you to or from something in your life without you realizing it. And so with the South Node moving through your sign, I think you're going to become more aware of your fear and how that plays a factor into the way that you pursue things in your life or the things that you desire. And I think it's going to help you learn how to trust and evolve past that fear a little bit more. The South Node can have a very spiritualizing effect where we tend to kind of release our attachments to physical things and move more into spiritual trust and surrender. And so I think that you guys are going to be going through a process of releasing fears and trusting more of spirit to kind of guide you into where you're meant to go next. With the North Node in your 7th house, this is an emphasis on relationships. And so I think that, and also I also pulled this trust card. So that's very much what I was talking about. But this is an emphasis on relationships. And so I think that you guys are meant to be community building right now. You're meant to be focusing on how you have been in your partnerships, how you have shown up, or who you've been attracting into your life. And if that's really resonating with you, maybe there are patterns where you've been, just too much of go with the flow, and now you need to be more assertive with taking action steps in your relationship to move it and mold it in a way that actually helps you evolve as a person, instead of being, kind of okay with whatever is going on, and a little bit too harmonious. So this will of course depend on your personal chart, but with the North Node here, it's really pushing you to incentivize you to pursue what you desire through others or with others. There is still that element of cooperation because it's your 7th house, but it's getting clear on what you really, really want in relationships, instead of taking a more receptive or passive role if you've been that way in the past. I think that your emotions will also become maybe a little bit more heightened for you this year, especially through the experiences that you might go through. Changing in a really big way, evolving as a soul, can bring up a lot of emotions to be dealt with. And I think that that's actually going to help you in a healthy way, maybe get clear about emotions that you have less experience with. Maybe you change your relationship with anger, with the North Node being in Aries. Maybe you see your emotions reflected in your relationships. Maybe you get clear on, what it is that you're wanting in relationships because your emotions are guiding you. But I think that that's going to become just something that's a lot more prevalent for you at this stage in your life. I also pulled this card that says ritual. And I think one of the things that you can do to ground yourself amongst these changes is to create rituals and routines in your life that feel like they are supportive of you in a very spiritual way. So they're not just things that are very practical, but that could be helpful. But they're also things that help connect you back with your soul. This card says, though there may be unknown forces surrounding and working for you, you're being prompted to join in through dedicated study and physical action. Beneficial esoteric teachings are worthwhile pursuing, and deeper connection with another is being forged. And that's really what I'm seeing. There's connections coming in, and that's the emphasis here. It's less about you and your goals and what you want and your identity and who you are, and it's more about realizing how important relationships have played a role in your life and how you can further develop those, and not to give up on yourself, but to create a nice balance between the two in your life. Because maybe you've been really goal focused for a while now, and it's time to shift gears into being relationship or other oriented in order to kind of balance things out. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Libra. If that resonates, or if you're inspired by this, please comment down below, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Scorpio Rising and Sun. For you guys, this North Node in Aries will be in your 6th house. And that means the South Node will be in Libra in your 12th house. So with the North Node in your 6th, there is a little bit more of an emphasis on becoming regimented in your life, becoming a little bit more routined. But this isn't a sign of Aries, so there is always going to be some element of aligning what your day-to-day life and work looks like in a way that actually feels a lot more passion driven. So it's not just duty, it's not just responsibility, but it's also driven by an inner purpose. It's driven by desires, by goals, by a mission. And it feels like it is something that is not just heavy, but has like some playfulness to it. So even though you are being asked to kind of create a little bit more of routine or focus more on your responsibilities in your day-to-day life, and maybe a job, for example, you might get a new job in your life. Even though that's the case, I think it's going to be something that is inspiring, that is maybe active, creative, something that ignites a flame within you. Your animal that's guiding you throughout this year and a half is a coyote, which says revealer of truth. Don't take things too seriously. Make time to play. Great wisdom comes from laughing at your folly. Look out for the traps and tricks of life and learn from them. So I think that this card is important because the 6th house does have some elements of being a negative house. It is the house of disease. It can sometimes have unfortunate events that fall on us in this house. It's not necessarily going to always be the case, but there is a potential of, feeling like sometimes there are things happening in our life that are unfortunate that we're having to deal with. So again, putting extra attention to our responsibilities and making sure that we're caring for them is emphasized, as well as our physical health, because those things can They just need a little bit of extra attention. And the North Node here can give you the energy and kind of desire actually to pursue those things. So that's positive. But sometimes, you know, the sixth house is a little bit of a grind. And I think this card is trying to come in and balance it out by saying not to take life too seriously. If things don't always go as planned, it's okay. You have it says revealer of truth. So you have, I feel like the truth coming in here to align you with what it is that you really want, what it is that you really desire. And if things don't go your way, maybe it's because there is something beyond what you want that is more fated or more destined for you. So more to the equation. I think that's a very much having a South Node in the 12th house kind of experience. There are things that happen outside of our control. There are destined events. There are fates in society and in the world that are meant to happen to us. And ultimately, we just have to kind of go with the flow. We have to trust the process of life, and it can realign us with a greater truth as well. Sometimes we have our sights set in one direction, and then life happens and things change us, and we start to realize we want something different. And I think that's part of what this year might be for you in some ways. Not just about, you know, focusing on your responsibilities and being really good about that, but also about really going with the flow of life as well in that process. Like, how can you be more regimented, more routine, but also adaptable, also open-minded, also listening to spirit, and being very aware of your mental and physical health. That's always going to be a thing with the 6th and 12th house axis. I always have to encourage people, you know, to protect their energy, especially mentally. You don't want to kind of grasp onto things too hard and put yourself in a space of a lot of overstimulation and anxiety, because I think that that's what can lead to some of our downfalls. I pulled a card for what we are not seeing that we're going to be working on during this time. And for you guys, you got the looking to the outside. And this says you're looking to the outside when you should be looking for the answers within. It's very unlikely, if you've drawn the sigil, that you're currently looking to everything else to make a decision to know what's right. Did I say unlikely or likely? I meant to say likely. You're being quick to assume that people around you know what to do and that you are quick to emulate them. So I think that this is really important because this has a lot to do with the South Node being in Libra, where we are looking for counsel. We ask people for advice. We think that they have an answer for our lives. When in reality, with the North Node being in Aries, we are meant to actually assume our own responsibility for our lives and our actions. And that means trusting our own inner truth. So I think the message is coming in really, really strongly here with the reveal your truth card and then this card is that your inner guidance and your inner compass is meant to be revealed to you this year. And it might be through things that are, again, outside of your control, or that feel like they are kind of throwing you up into the realm of like, what's next? You know, I don't know, like, where are the chips going to fall? And I think you guys have already been going through a really big process of regeneration with the South Node in your sign, and then even more with the South Node moving into your 12th. So I think it's about going through all these experiences and figuring out more and more what at the end of the day is standing tall and strong within yourself. What is really true for yourself? What is your true north? And using that as your compass to guide you, even though things are ever changing around you. We also have this communication card. So I think that there is an emphasis as well on the way that you talk to others, the way that you connect with others, because the sixth house has a lot to do with collaborative efforts. And so if you have been kind of working with people and, sharing your ideas with people, but you've done it in a way that is maybe not speaking up enough or maybe speaking up too much, that can also be emphasized with this North Node in Aries. So maybe there are ways in which you're a little bit too aggressive in the workforce with, people that you're trying to work with, or maybe you're not aggressive enough. And this communication card can really show you where you need to create harmony and peace, but not at the expense of yourself. So I think that is all about being balanced, and also the way that you talk to yourself. Your own mental health, again, is really highlighted. So that's just something to really draw upon. Like, how am I speaking to myself? How am I making meaning out of these situations that are maybe outside of my control? How am I treating myself in my day-to-day life? And that's just a really important factor with anything involving the sixth house. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. It seems like a year of revealing your truth, or year and a half. And so I'm excited to see what that brings about for you guys. If you want to share anything down below, I would love to hear your comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn Rising and Sun. So for you guys, the North Node is going to be in Aries in your 4th house, and the South Node will be in in Libra in your 10th house. I almost said Capricorn. You are Capricorn. But that's the axis the nodes will be in. So this is interesting because this is the first group where I pulled a duplicate of one of the cards. And I believe it was Scorpio. So maybe you have Scorpio. If so, definitely watch that one if that's an important planet in your chart, important sign. But one of the things that I'm noticing here with this card that I pulled that overlaps is number 47. It's talking about gaining advice and perspective from the outside, and how that's actually become an issue for you. And with this being in your 4th house, there is a really heavy emphasis on trusting your own intuition. And there can sometimes be like too much of an emphasis on family, like listening to family. So just kind of keep that in mind if family is steering you in a particular way, that you really learn to hone in on your own inner guidance during this period of the next year and a half around what to do. And then also expectations or public or society traditions, where the South Node in the 10th house has to do with all those things. If that's something that has been kind of bogging you down, like if you have ways in which you have expectations of yourself or how things should be because of outside forces saying that's how things are best, this is your time to really have the courage to stand against that. And as a Capricorn, as Saturn ruled sign, that's something that comes less naturally to you. And with the North Node being in your 4th in Aries, it's really trying to bring that level of fire and boldness and courageousness. And I literally pulled the Courage card, coming from the inside out. So the 4th house is the most intimate house. It's the house where we are the most vulnerable, the most hidden. It's like how we are behind closed doors. And sometimes we're not even fully aware of our elements of our 4th house. And it's our truest, most intimate nature. So having the North Node come here into Aries, it's allowing yourself to boldly explore and authentically align with that true nature, even externally, to express all of those parts of yourself in the way that you want to express them, despite the way that society is, despite the kind of tendencies or the outside forces or how your family says you should be or whatever it is. It's you having the courage to have that fire from within to be like, no, this is me. And it's in a way also breaking from your past, or identifying how you want to align with it versus break from it. Because our 4th house is our ancestry. It's our roots. And there are many ways in which the North Node of the 4th house can help you connect deeper to those roots in the ways that you want to, but also let go of the parts that you don't want to be involved with and courageously explore that internal world of yours. This also could indicate finding your sense of belonging, finding your home, and that could be within yourself and having a very kind of secure sense of self as a result of the work that you do with the North Node here. Or it could quite literally be landing into a place where you can make roots for yourself, create that sense of family in whatever way that means for you. The animal guiding you this year is the tiger, and it says fire. I choose to be unstoppable. My passion is my power. I am bold. I am brave. Mighty forces come to my aid. This is very, very, very powerful energy. I feel like you guys are kind of almost like embodying this kind of kingly, unstoppable force within yourself where you are standing tall, you are standing proud, you are owning who you are. And I think that this North Node is actually giving you more confidence than ever before. With the South Node in the 10th house, there's a little bit of an energy around kind of not focusing as much on what society says, like I've already mentioned, but also not focusing necessarily on how you're achieving things, how much success you're having, how your career is going. And it's not to say that you can't have those things, but that it's de-emphasized in your life in a way that you are able to then focus on your internal world to feel empowered in a different way. Maybe you've overly relied on external success to feel confident, to feel courageous, and now it's time to shift that, to find roots in your own self instead of rooting into an ideology or a support system of the traditions or of the masses or society. So I really see that you guys are, again, bringing that fire from within instead of needing to kind of create that for yourself in a public external way. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. If this inspires you, or if you have any comments that you want to leave below, if it resonates with you, please comment that down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius Rising and Sun. So for you guys, the North Node is going to be in your 5th house in the sign of Aries, and the South Node is going to be in your 11th house in Libra. And it's always good to have the 5th and 11th house activated because, as I've been saying, these are areas where we're going to have the potential for growth, for joy, of reaching something that feels like it is kind of helping us as a person. And I did pull a very lucky card for you guys. I got the ladybug, which says good luck. So this is your guiding animal for the next year and a half as the North Node transits your 5th house. So in general, you guys might feel like you are luckier, like things are working out more in your favor. You might notice that you have maybe some of you guys, if you've always wanted to give birth to something, that comes to life during this period of time, or the idea of it begins at this period of time and you work on it throughout this year and a half. So that could be a book, that could be a child, that could be a new relationship. It's something that you feel like is something you've always wanted, especially with this desire card. I feel like you are becoming very aware of your wants and your desires, and you are going after them. Aries is about having the motivation and the drive to do the work to get that thing. So in many ways, I really see that you guys are putting in the effort to achieve what you want and seeing it pay off for you. I will say though, sometimes the North Node can overemphasize things, and being in the 5th house, sometimes we can overindulge. We might become a little bit too swept up in our pleasures. So just kind of keep that in mind, that there are ways in which we could go too far into our desires that is not going to help us. So just remember to balance this out. With the South Node in your 11th house, you may have to let go of some kind of previous identifications, previous group affiliations, friendships, communities, ways of belonging that you felt like were supporting some kind of version of yourself that maybe now is evolving. Maybe you have different desires now that are taking you in different directions. That doesn't have to be the case, but that is one potential. The South Node 11th house is also about maybe moving away from long-term planning. And this is not to say not to plan or think long-term, because that's important, but to kind of reduce our expectations in that area of our life. If we've been really sitting down and creating a 2-year plan and working diligently, with the North Node being in the 5th house and in Aries, there's a little bit more of an instinctual energy of like, I'm going to trust that my desires will lead me in the present moment to where I want to go. And I have a broad scope of what I'm trying to reach for, but I'm not getting overly adherent to a specific plan. And this will actually open up a lot more doors for you when you're following that feeling of passion and joy that arises from doing the right activities at the right time. I noticed when I had the North Node move through this house that I became somebody who was focused on what my hobbies were. I picked up a lot of new hobbies, and I kind of tried this and that, and I finally started doing art for the first time in my life. And now I continue to do those things today as a way to balance out my work and my play. And so you might start to realize that there are ways in which you can actually just kind of cruise through life a little bit easier by doing things that bring you joy. And the ladybug says you have good luck, so you don't have to worry about forcing things. It says you are bright energy. Also, the fifth house is visibility. So you guys might have a little bit more opportunities to be noticed for things that you do in that sense of passion. Like if you are coming at this thing that you really, really love, people might take notice of that, and you might have more suitors, even, for example. Let worry go and be happy here now. Yes, don't worry about the future. Be present and be happy. Feel good about being a loving and colorful you. So like really allowing yourself to authentically shine in your own essence, which is fifth house Leo energy. This means not holding yourself back, not being afraid of expressing yourself, and not being afraid of having selfish motivations. With this card around, like, what are you not seeing? This sigil really has to deal with lying to yourself about your own motivations. And with the fifth house in Aries, there are going to be times where you have quite literally like self interest motivations. Like, I want to do this because I want money. I want to do this because I want to achieve success or fame. And it's like, that's not a problem. It's only a problem if it's too emphasized, if it's distorted, but it's not a problem to have self-interest and to have motivations that are self-driven. And so I think that you guys are coming into acceptance of this in yourself, that I want this because I want it for myself, and it doesn't have to be for anyone else, and that's okay. And really owning that, I think, is actually going to open up a lot of doors for you. You bless the world with color and good luck. Absolutely. So people are going to be drawn to you. You're going to be a little bit more magnetic when you are following the things that bring you joy. And there is, though, again, a disconnection from groups that you maybe previously intertwine yourself with. So maybe there are friends and people that you're going to be changing over because, again, I think you're going to be a little bit more concerned with yourself, what brings you joy, what brings you fun, and maybe some of the old plans and commitments or people were more aligned with kind of stagnant energy for you. And this is more about your heart chakra. So if something feels like it's not activating your heart chakra anymore, it's probably going to fall by the wayside. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. If you enjoyed this, please don't forget to comment down below. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius. So for you guys, the North Node is going to be in your third house for this next year and a half, and the South Node is going to be in Libra in the ninth house. So, and the North Node in Aries, I don't think I mentioned that. So for you guys, one of the first things I want to start off with is the blind spot card, even though for most people I've been doing that last. For this one, I got number 61, which has to do with temporality. And it's talking about how you guys, one of the dangers that you are meant to overcome this year or be aware of this next year and a half is being overly attached to the physical world, to what is here right in front of you right now, what is provable, what is rational, what is logical. And it's talking about how there is more to the universe than meets the eye, and that we are not separated from spirit, but we are unified with it. And so I feel like there is something in your life right now with the South Node being in the ninth house that you guys may have, this may draw your attention to how you have maybe become a little bit more imbalanced in the way that you view the world, because the ninth house is our connection to spirit. It's our bigger perspective. It's our wisdom. And with the South Node here, I really feel like you guys, if you have lost touch with that wisdom, if you have become really engrossed in the present day, it's going to maybe exacerbate this and really draw your attention to how this is imbalanced in your life and needs attention. So it's going to show you that you can't just move through life very focused on what's here right now, but you have to actually incorporate the present to the bigger picture, the spiritual and the wisdom, the knowledge with the wisdom, the present experience of this world with the ultimate meaning of life. And those things need to be interwoven in a nice balanced way with the North and South Node in this axis. What's interesting, though, is that the North Node in the third house typically has the experience of giving you a lot of activity, a lot of busyness, and a lot of presentness in the mind. So it's like, okay, I'm going here, I'm going there. It's like a very flitting around kind of energy. It's Gemini. It's very much it's very active. And so with the North Node, you might have even more activity than usual. But I think that this is really coming as an urgent message to not get overly swept up into this, but to connect further with the meaning, the purpose, the broader perspective, the wisdom, the spiritual underties or undercurrents to all of these things that you're experiencing. So to zoom in and zoom out and zoom in and zoom out is kind of your goal for the next year and a half. And that's going to be very, very important because I think that you are going to be given more opportunities to step up as a leader with Aries in the third house. There might be something in your community, in your friends, even with your siblings or within your workplace or something where I feel like you guys might be given the position, some position of power. Maybe your voice is now expanded in some kind of way. People are hearing you more. They're giving you more attention. There's just something about your autonomy and your leadership that's given more focus. But you don't want to come into that and get so swept up into that you lose, again, the connection to source, the connection to that perspective, to spirit, to everything that you're going through and the whole purpose of it. And that's, I mean, what makes a great leader is their ability to see what needs attention right now and long term. So that is kind of like that big picture thinking that you guys need to access. The animal that's guiding you throughout this year is the moose, and it says wisdom. Let your head and mind reach to the stars, but keep your feet grounded on the earth. Again, the same balance of what are my practical things to do, but how can I see the future? How can I see my connection with the spirit world at the same time? Listen to the ancient wisdom in your soul. The ancestors speak through you. You know much. So I really feel like as this is a time for maybe more leadership for you, I think that that connection to the ninth house, if used properly, can funnel the right energy through basically to your ancestors, like it was saying, like all of this wisdom from past lives and from other people's lives that you're connected to can funnel through you as a leader and share your message if you are remaining connected to the spirit world. But if you lose that connection and become too busy, you might start becoming lost and disconnected and floundering. So again, you're going to have a lot of busyness this year. And with the South Node in the ninth house, you might be kind of moving away from this. I mean, generally, we move away from bigger picture thinking, but that's really trying to prevent that with all these messages coming through. It's really warning against that. And sometimes with the ninth house coming into the third, we might go from like we're used to traveling or learning about these big esoteric subjects, and now we're applying them, and now we are doing things more locally, and we're just kind of taking big things and making them smaller. But remember, try to balance both of them. But that's kind of the energy that I'm seeing here, that you might naturally move away from that bigger perspective, and we want to just keep it balanced. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius Rising. If that resonates, please let me know by commenting down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, we have Pisces Rising and Sun. For you guys, this North Node in Aries is going to be in your second house, while the South Node is going to be in Libra in your eighth house. So this is a very clear message coming through for you, and I really wanted to kind of emphasize the North Node in the Aries in a second, which is a lot about you guys gaining confidence. And in order to do that, you're going to have to leave any feelings or thoughts of scarcity behind. I pulled a card that represents what we don't see that we are going to be working on this next year and a half. For you, it was the scarcity card. And the second house has to do with our money, our abundance, our feeling that we're bringing so much to the table, that we have so much to offer, that we are capable of getting everything that we want, that we are worthy and valuable enough to have what we desire. And there are many ways in which that hasn't been the case for you. And I want to read some examples specifically from this book. Okay. You are falling into scarcity thinking, and it's causing you to think, speak, and act in ways that don't benefit you. It may cause you to make choices that are not the right ones. We are apt to jump in on the first offer we get when we're desperate to sell. We take jobs we hate when we need to pay the bills. If our family was poor, we tend to hoard our money so we avoid the feeling of being without. Or we never save our money for the long run because we feel our money will vanish or be taken away if we don't spend it on what we want. We tend to believe that the perceived value of something is higher and better quality when we think it's rare or difficult to acquire. We assume that someone is a better catch when they're taken. We also take people who are a bad catch when we assume there's a scarcity of good catches out there. If we're desperate for money, we may act totally out of alignment with our integrity. And then it goes on. It says, do anything you can to move into a perception of abundance instead of scarcity. So really it's just saying that I wanted to list that off because there are so many examples of how we can live in mode of scarcity that is not financially related, but is related to all these different facets of life and very much interwoven and connected to our confidence, our own sense of empowerment and worthiness. So if your self-esteem is low, the North Node being in Aries in the second house is a time for you to get really vibrant with your self-esteem, and that aligns with this peacock card, which is your animal, your guiding animal for the next year and a half, and it says vibrancy. You were born to shine and inspire. Practice humility to avoid jealousy. Be grateful for life, and more good things will come. Be true to yourself and recognize your brilliance. This card to me is a lot about seeing how vibrant and amazing you actually are as a person. The second house is knowing exactly how amazing we are, bringing and how much we bring to the table in a relationship or into the world. And so it's our sense of value. And if you are grateful for yourself and for life, I think you will start to see and recognize more and more value in it over time. So one of the best ways to come out of scarcity is to practice gratitude, and to also start to make note of all the ways that you do shine bright, of all the ways that you are adding to the world and adding to the people around you. And I think that you'll notice that your physical vitality, your strength, the feeling of being supported by the universe, all of that increases as you start to increase your perception of abundance. And with the South Node being in your 8th house, you're really combating old insecurities and fears and doubts, and seeing how those shadows have kind of crept in, maybe unconsciously, into your life and have actually stolen and taken away some of your vitality and taken away some of that feeling of strength and empowerment. And I do want to read this card as well. It has a snake on it, which is very much representative of the 8th house, that way that we can regenerate. And when I think about regeneration, I think about taking energy that was improperly used or was used to hurt us, and then changing that cycle in our lives and in our minds and in our emotions. And then that energy suddenly becomes available to funnel into other areas of our life, which is why our vitality increases. So part of this Scorpio, this snake energy associated with the 8th house, is that regeneration of causing one thing to transform or alchemize into another that is healthier, that is stronger, that is more supportive. And that's definitely what I'm seeing here with you doing this inner work. So it's a good time to see a therapist as well with the South Node in the 8th house. And I would say it's a time to save your money, not to focus on scarcity, but to think more in terms of, how do I want to create this beautiful feeling of security around myself and prepare for things long term in a way that feels still abundant? Because the 8th house can be very much like taking risks, taking leaps of faith, maybe buying something, maybe like putting money for a house down. And it's like, that's not to say not to do that, because it really depends on your chart and your transits, but like taking risks is not as supported when the South Node moves to the 8th house, especially financial risks. So just recognize that this is a time of gaining and accumulation. And that doesn't mean hoarding, but there is a difference. Accumulation and hoarding are fine line. So just kind of recognize the difference there and move towards the energy of security and accumulation, and then take risks later after the nodes have shifted in 2025. So this vitality card says, figs will show you that you can and should look at what you have and what is going on with new eyes. And I think part of this is being grateful for yourself and your life through a different lens, like looking at it through a more gracious lens. Every single day gives us a chance of a fresh beginning, but you will need to jump up and work for it. New life experiences are on offer, and clarity will shine upon opportunities as well. Make sure you protect yourself. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. I hope that resonates. If it does, please don't forget to like and comment down below. I hope you have a very beautiful day. Subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.